I just want to record because if other people will join, or so that I will put that for them for later viewing. Okay, so we will cover monolithic and microservices architecture, quick intro, then benefits, and then how you will convert your existing project or existing monoliths into the microservices. What are the techniques people use? And then today's idea is like, will be mostly around what is service discovery, what is client side discovery, what is server side discovery, what is service registry, and what is Eureka Service Registry, why it is famous, and then we will go for the quick demo. That is the idea. I am sure we will go above 1 hour, maybe 10 minutes or something. But this is like default Zoom meeting, which might end in 45 minutes. So you need to re-click on the link. And this is like beginning. We are just talking to which kind of plan we take so that it continues, because I was thinking initially to go for 100, but then I found people are joining fast and we might have the bigger community. So then again 100 will become challenge. So I'm thinking 500. So that's why 1 or 2 week it will be like that. Okay. So let's go to the quick intro and then we will start the topic. So my name is Anup Vasist and I have been working in software industry from last 16 plus years, maybe you can say now 17 years. And I have worked with different investment banks like JP Morgan, Royal Bank, and many.
ये तेरी आईडी से क्यों वो हो गया लॉगिन जूम मीटिंग
Sorry, somebody on you. Yeah. So I have worked. I can see still some. Yeah, now it's good. So I have worked in different investment bank, and I am working even today as a software architect. And this platform is dedicated towards sharing my knowledge and experience to mentor the software professional to grow in their career to advanced level. And I'm on a mission to where I will create 1 million software professional to transform in their career to go to the next level. And in India and across world, and I am in collaboration with one of the company in Norway, where we are building one machine learning project and some of the other project which we will be launching in maybe I don't know when, but the plan is slowly building different kind of platform, and if that goes success, you all will be converted into the machine learning expert as well. And this tribe will be basically, we have some values around that while building all of that. The trust is the important factor, and that's why this is my introduction, so that you know me, why you will listen to me, and why I am here. And then the transparency and honesty is one of the pillar. Then our idea is helping each other wherever, like let's say you are working in some company or working in a project and you stuck with something. We will be having a private Facebook group where you will be coming and writing your question, and anybody in the community can help each other. So that is the idea, and we will be always respectful and humbleness with each other, and we will share whatever you are learning, whatever you are getting, and helping each other member, if they stuck with something, so you will try to help them. That is the idea, and quick introduction about me. And the more you can go on my LinkedIn and other places. So I'll be keep sharing that. Okay, so let's talk about some monolithic application to start with. So you will be hearing about Amazon and Flipkart and these type of different e-commerce website. So for example, if I talk here, you might be seeing it's a blurry image. Don't worry, I'll give you some other image. So this is a shopping cart application like Amazon, which we used to develop. If you talk in the Java world, what happens? We were having initially servlet JSP type of application, or older, we will be designing our page into the JSP and then having a big servlet and or maybe EJB, and then we were having different modules. So those order module, payments module, and shipping module into this particular shopping cart. And then each module is a big fat application where we will be building the var file or big a deployment file, EAR file, and putting into different kind of servers like Tomcat or maybe WebLogic or some other server, whatever you are using. And even if for the smallest change, you have to do a lot of things. You have to redeploy the application. And even if you are like, let's say in the Diwali sale, there is something, more orders are coming from Flipkart, and then that time you see there will be more orders, but payments can be like, or shipping can be little lesser. So you want to increase the the efficiency of the order module, but others can remain as it is. Those sort of things you can't achieve in the existing, the infrastructure of the monolithic application. The reason being, even if you want to scale your infrastructure, what will happen? Your infrastructure will be scaled for all the modules, and then you don't know how much is going to order service and how much is going to payment module and shipping module. So those are the problems. Even we were having one big database, maybe Oracle, maybe MS SQL, whatever database you are using. So one UI, then different modules in a big application, and then one database. That was the kind of existing architecture in most of the companies, and which is, we say, end tier architecture, right? And then what happened? Even if smallest change, you have to go through with all the testing again. And even if some feature is get broken, you need to make sure that everything is working fine again. So this is just example application to understand from your side that what is the monolithic application. Now you can go in your world, wherever project, whatever project you are working, and if you never come across with microservice, you will be seeing your application is monolithic application, which we call legacy application also. And even the service oriented architecture is also called kind of legacy or monolithic application. And then we refine for the application architecture into the microservices. So tell me, are you able to digest this, how the monolithic application will look like in general? And these are the just high level boxes. I can show you on something like this here also, so that you can see the clear image. This is our Miro board. So this is the image I was showing. These are the three modules in the shopping cart, and this is one web application UI, which could be JSP, which could be ASP.NET, and then you have a user browser from Chrome or somewhere. You are coming to one page, and then this is going to different modules, and then these modules are talking to one database. So that kind of application we call monolithic application in general. Then this application can have kind of different variations altogether, but this is high level. Sometimes you may have order services talking to something else, where you might have some kind of messaging platform, event bus, or RabbitMQ or some kind of messaging, or you may have web service also involved into that. But those are the fine grained details. High level, this is the architecture of my existing monolithic application. So I stop here before I go to the next, just to align with me and understand. Did you understand what exactly is the monolithic application? Because when we will go further and talk about the difference, what are the problem in this, then you will be able to digest it properly. So are you with me? Say yes or no, so that we can take the question and then we go further. And whoever joined a little late, that's fine. I mean, we are just getting we started, and we are recording as well, so that later on also you can check. Cool. So I see you are able to understand what is the monolithic at high level. Okay. So now we will go to the microservices, and here only we will show. Then we'll go to the presentation. So what will happen? The same application, if I divide into different independent entities, okay, and these entities are nothing but we are calling as a microservices. And how we divide, what are the criteria to divide, and how it will be done, that we will talk when we will go, how you will design your microservices. But as of now, you understand microservices is your module at fine grained level. You are cutting it down into different business requirement, and then making it as an independent. So if I need to change something in order, I don't need to worry about shipping and payments, and they will not be impacted. I don't need to test shipping. I don't need to test payments, as well as I can increase the capacity of order itself. I don't need to worry about shipping and payments. which was not possible in this kind of architecture. And here, like, changing at one place, even it can impact multiple places, but here it is separate deployment. So idea is like, this whole box, you see, this is one var file or EAR file earlier. But now this each individual thing is a one jar file or one deployment, which will be deployed in one kind of cloud environment or containers, which you choose, like, maybe Kubernetes or maybe some cloud like AWS. You will be deploying, and then you can change only in that particular service. So that is the idea in microservices. So you can see clearly, and then how you will make sure that as a user, when you are coming from the browser, you will say, I still want to order my shirt or my, like, whatever the items I need to order, electronic items. I still need to go into that web UI and portal, and I still need to make the payment. I still need to make the shipping. But then how it is stitching together? So we have a pattern, or we have a policy called gateways, which will help us, like, to route. If user is coming, like, for order, then it will go for the order only. If it is coming for shipping, then it will go there, and it will make sure that it is stitched together. And then a lot of cross-cutting concern, which we'll talk later, will also be handled here. And then in this diagram, intentionally, I didn't mention the service registry as well as the security, because that we will cover, and then we will establish in this diagram. And you see here, we divided database also into two parts instead of one part, so that only the order related tables and order related context of the data will remain into this particular database or this particular schema, right? So those are the idea about microservices. So I hope you will be able to, like, now understand what exactly the high level microservices, what are the benefits we are getting, and how to look at high level architecture of the microservices. Are you with me, and are you able to follow? Vaibhav, I can hear little noise, background noise. Can you mute if you are not speaking? Or you are asking something? I Okay. So my question is, like, microservices high level, are you able to follow? And if say yes, then I will be knowing. If no, then just ask you a question. Yes or no? Yeah, Prashant, you have a question. Please, either you speak or you write. Don't you think same data may exist in multiple it's a redundant data and waste of databases? Okay, it's nice question. So what happens when we I'm just like, for representation it looks like database, but it will not be same data. What will happen when we are dividing those databases? What we will do, we will have a particular boundary or bounded context where we will make sure that order related data remain here. But yeah, there will be some overlapping of the data, which is like, the common data. Those we need to have some duplicacy, but that is okay, because the benefits are more than losing or like, having the data duplicacy. So that will not be a challenge, it's okay. But you see, it's not a exactly replica of this monolithic to microservice database. This database is like, divided into three databases. Basically, this database will be divided into three databases according to their service requirement. And we will do with all the exercises and all the project building with all these exercises, like, how you will divide your database, how you will design, when you design your event storming for this particular order service, how you will do and find all these events, how you will define your context, and what could be the duplicate. And but yeah, that we will in the coming session we will cover that. I hope I'm able to answer you, and more question please ask. Please say yes, no. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so let me go back to our presentation. And here I just talked the same thing. like now shipping cart application deployed in separate service, and these modules become a one independent service, and there are different database which we already talked, and now client can interact with mobile as well as different interfaces because we have the gateway. Earlier it was not possible, and then even a smallest change you can deploy only that particular service. So that is high level whatever we talk. And before we go more details about those things, we will talk quickly about how you will convert your existing monolithic service to the microservices. So there is concept, Prashant, you just talked the same question. So there is concept called domain-driven design, and there is already a book from Eric Evans. If you get a chance, you can read that book. And with a more practical example, when we go into the demo mode and in the next sessions, we will cover all these things, how you will build your application with domain-driven design. And I believe like all the world, like whether you are working .NET, Java, or anywhere, you have this domain-driven design is popular now. Even in your organization, you will be keep hearing DDDD. Basically, it is nothing but your domain-driven design. So we will talk about that in coming session where we will be designing your monolithic to microservice, and how you will design your monolithic to microservice. There are different patterns. So if you, let's say you are working in mainframe and you want to convert this mainframe application into microservices, so there are application, we use different pattern like Strangler pattern. If you are having the different banking application, you may use different pattern. So based on the nature of the application, we go different type of design patterns. So some of them I just mentioned here: Strangler, stop digging, extract out services, modules, and split front end, back end separately, and design with data models. These are the like high level modules which we I mean different patterns which we use to convert your monolithic, and there are so many more. But we will be talking all these in upcoming session where we will take one example of existing maybe Amazon website or any project. Even you can give me the input, and then we will try to brainstorm and try to convert that service into microservice. So that is the idea. I will take some industry example, and we'll try to build a use case around that. Okay. So now, whatever we talked, I don't know whether this diagram is fully visible to you, unless otherwise increase the size. Yeah. So here, whatever I talked, basically monolithics and microservices, I'm just trying to create a mind map where you can easily remember what is happening in monolithics and what are the benefits you are getting with the monolithics. What are the disadvantage even in microservices, even in the monolithics, and what is the advantage in both microservice and monolithic, and why microservice is popular? Because that is giving a lot of value today, and everybody is talking about that because for the business it makes sense and it aligns with the what do you say, agile principle as well. So all this in this diagram I try to cover. You can give more input if you have some more like input which I missed it. So let's quickly just check that, because we already saw the what kind of monolithic application we have. So if I say the advantage of application, let's say you are building and you are joining a company, and people say what kind of architecture you want to use. So then if your application is very small, you don't need to go for the microservices. Then you build your application, single page application, and very small, then go for the monolithics. If you have very few developer in your team, one or two, then don't go for microservices, because when you build in the microservices, it takes time. It requires a lot of expertise, right? So if it is easy development and you want very quick testing and easy to develop kind of application you want, then microservice, I mean the monolithics is good enough. You don't need to worry. But if your application becomes so huge, it's very hard to maintain, and even your your team is sitting hours to fixing the bugs in the production, that means there is something wrong. We need to stop that. Late night stay and production issue fixing and all can be resolved when we stop when we start using microservices from monolithics with good design, and over the time it becomes more stable. So that is the idea. And you can see for monolithics, what is the, when we are using for a small application for POC type of thing, we can use monolithic, and for a small team and an experienced team, you can use monolithic. And the problems we already saw in the monolithics, because we have a single code base, so multiple developers, even if they want to make some changes, it becomes very hard. And for a small change also, you require full testing cycle. You need a full dedicated testing team which will running the test suite and making sure everything is working even with small change. And then you have difficult to scale. As I said, like, if order service we want to scale, we don't have way to only scale the order service. The full application will be scaled. So those are the problem. And then you let's say you want to build order service in Java, but tomorrow, let's say the .NET is doing good, or like, Python is becoming popular. You will see the problem. You can't change the technology very fast. Even like UI, you are building something in Angular and you want to switch to the React. It is not easy if you are using the monolithic application. So that's why the monolithics has the problem for faster development. Somebody raised the hand. If has question, please ask, or it's by mistake. Not sure. Please write that in chat if you have question. No? Okay. So now you understood what is the problem with the monolithic. It's not polyglot basically. If you want to use multiple technology, multiple platform, you can't do with monolithics. And that is the need of our. I see in one project we are using 10 technology because something is working better for one project or one module, but something is required for another module. So that's why microservices advantage is like, it's a small independent service, or so whatever modules you see in the previous application, that becomes in general your services, but it's not necessarily. When we design that, you will get to know. Then each service focus on one business domain. So let's say you are working on the order thing, so you will be only focusing on the order thing, not worried about the shipping, not worried about the payment. You will be improving only the order domain. And then it's easy to fix the errors if something happening in the order, so okay, we need to look into the order service. And then we can easily deploy it. Now you see everything is getting deployed using pipelines, Jenkins pipeline, or like, Azure pipelines, all of that, right? And that becomes very easy because we have independent small project, and you can quickly build and do that. I see we have only 10 minutes and then we need to rejoin, but for the same link, but I'm just reminding you. Okay. Then we have independence and team and responsibility. So let's say each team is working in, differently. They don't need to worry about other teams, what they are working, and they take the ownership. These small team take the ownership. The team can be divided into one, pizza team. That is the general saying in the agile principle. So you can also divide the team and give the responsibility, and they take the responsibility that this particular service belong to us, and you can assign one team to one service. That is the general idea the organization take. And it's easy to scale one service based on the demand. We talked, right? Order service we want to increase at the time of Diwali sale, right? That can happen. And then once that sale is over, you can reduce that course, or like, reduce the instance of that particular service. Okay. And when to use microservices? If you are building the new project, then definitely, and it's a big project, then definitely greenfield project is the first choice for microservice. You don't have any option. You should go with the microservices in today's world instead of using monolithics. So any new development should happen in microservices today. And application domain division also should happen using microservices. So if you are building different domains, so those kind of services you can build using microservices. If you want to adopt that cloud technology, then default choice is microservice. If you are managing independent services efficient way, if you talk like, order, you want to manage differently and shipping differently, then it can be done using microservices. And then you want faster development, like you see the Facebook and the big companies, they are releasing probably every day, right? And how it happens, because they have agile principle and agile team using microservices. So all this can happen with the microservices. Otherwise, it's really difficult even for a small change. You have to do a lot of things. Okay, so now the problem of microservices, it's not basically problem of microservices. It's like, because microservices in the nature of distributed technology, right? So whatever the problem we have in the distributed technology, they will come by default with the microservices because they are based on the network, right? And whatever problem you face in the network, you all will come into the microservices. Today, why microservices start that kind of adoption? Because our internet speed became very good, because our network infrastructure became good, and cloud given the new life to the microservices. That's why we see the microservices is popular. Earlier, because we were not having the distributed technology kind of infrastructure setup, it was not that easy. So one is like, end-to-end testing become little difficult when you do, like, I want to test from order to shipping to payment, everything go on smooth or not. So those sort of things, you need to go three different service, you need to see the logs, and you need to trace back them. So all of this become a little challenging, and even harder to trace the logs. You need to have the Kibana or like in a Splunk log, so that you can see or aggregate your logs. And failure of one particular service, you need to identifying and finding the root cause. So you need a lot of monitoring tools to find, like, App Dynamics or Dynatrace, all sort of tool you require. Otherwise, it's become very difficult. And that's why I'm saying, if you are a small project, you should not choose this, because you don't need to do all of that. And then it becomes more component. Like, let's say you have 50 microservices, it is a little difficult, and you need to, like, manage it very very nicely. So companies are managing, but I'm just saying it is becoming little difficult if you are not having experience. And then the most important is culture and mindset change, because so far we were building the services in the different mindset. We were in waterfall kind of model. Even by the namesake, we are using agile, but we are still in waterfall mode if we are using the monolithics. So that's why the mindset get changed, the culture get changed, and you need to deploy, you need to DevOps also you need to adopt. All these things come into microservices and monolithic architecture difference. And I hope this will give you some idea, like, what is high level monolithic and microservices architecture. Okay, sounds good. So then say yes or no, and then we will go to the next section of the presentation, and then we will go for the time. Cool. And I hope, like, you are a little clear why and why not monolithic. Okay. So now we will talk about service discovery. Basically, why we need service discovery, and people talk about service discovery, right? And you may be also hearing the term service discovery, and why it is important. So now you see, in the cloud world, what happens? You deployed one service at one place, and tomorrow that cloud location get changed. The IP address of that particular service get changed, right? So you need to discover that particular service. So IP address of the service you have deployed at some location, but because you deployed in AWS, you deployed in some other cloud provider, and then the IP address of that particular service got changed. And then you don't have any idea, if you are writing your code and you have hard coded that particular or configured that particular IP address, that is gone, because dynamically those things are changing. So to solve those sort of things, we require a service discovery. So it's a design pattern which makes sure that what our services is registered to particular, like, in the cloud environment. We keep track of all the services, and then we can discover whenever we need it. So one service want to discover other service without knowing the exact location. That is the need to service discovery, basically. And then service location keep changing in new cloud and microservices setup. Client who is searching for service, they need to know where is service, even if the network or IP address change. So Now there are two ways to discover the service. One is the client side discovery, one is the server side discovery. So either client can look itself and know, like, where to look into, and the server, like, itself look into those services and give you the match. So there are two approach to discover the services. So I'll give you example. So we will come to this service registry after, like, talking to this client side and server side discovery. So for example, you have service A, which is our order service, and service B, which is like maybe shipping service, right? These two services. So after ordering, I want to, let's say, go for shipping or payment, right? So I want to locate that particular service. Now this particular service don't know direct location of this service B, and you can see my cursor, right? Please write in the chat if you see anywhere, like, gap in the understanding or anywhere, because I might not know whether you understood. So service A to service B, they don't know, and they can't talk to directly because their location or their IP address keep changing, right? So that's why we have a between layer called service registry, where what happens, all the services registered here, and then what happens, once this service is registered, so client, this is client. So let's say service A is a client. He want to look for the service B. That is the requirement, right? So because the service A, which is client, he don't know about service B. What he can do, he will go to the service registry and he will say, hey, I need this service. So service registry, one way service registry will tell and find the service B for you. That is one approach. The other is, like, service, the client which is, I mean, like, discovering that particular service. He itself is aware about, like, I can find, once service registry give me the location of that particular service B, I will directly talk to him. So basically, this service A will go to service registry. He will give him, like, okay, this particular client you are looking, this is particularly, that particular client is that location, and then this service client itself is aware about registry, so he will directly talk to the service fee. So that we call the client side discovery, and we use ribbon client. We will talk how we can use the ribbon client, but that is the load balance algorithm, where it makes our service as a registry aware HTTP client. So this guy will directly able to talk to the discover to the other service.